through the sand like a thought in disguise. The scarab spins truth where the cosmos collide. Energy whispers, it never says goodbye. The Beatles crawl, the Beatles rise.
Go to AmericanHealer.website now. Get the tools for health and inspiration the way God intended.
Saw the burst, the chaos, yet the chaos rise. My name Beatles, 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 over and over. Spinning the world in the grip of their shoulders. Beatles, 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 under and over. Rolling through time till the blackness is sober. The heat fades lower, the order begins. A stillness so perfect it hums from within. The void sings softly, entropy takes a bow. In the shadow of silence, the scarab knows how. The second law is dancing, feeding life through decay. The third law holds the promise that the stillness will stay. Beatles,
Go to AmericanHealer.website now. Get the tools for health and inspiration the way God intended.
Inky prayer number 2. We give thanks and praise to the Most High God for the divine spark that set ourselves into perpetual motion. We give thanks for the magnetism of the Most Holy, the magnetism that repels and attracts the ferry boats of light 60,000 miles every 60 seconds throughout our vessels and caves. We give thanks for the ability to drink clean water every 60 minutes, flooding the river of life. We give thanks that sugar has not covered our ferries and turned them into stone. We give thanks that darkness has not covered the riverbanks with calcium and turned them into stone. We give thanks that anger and fear have not turned our almonds bitter, turning our heart to stone. We give thanks for smooth sailing upstream through the valley of death, through the superior vena cava into the right atrium. We give thanks for smooth sailing around the heart through the corona crown, joining the vortex in the right atrium. We give thanks for the perfect black solar repeater that induces the primary electromagnetic wave, opening the mouth of the Kodesh HaKodeshim. We give thanks for the mechanical wave produced when the mouth of the Kodesh HaKodeshim closes. We give thanks to the ray wave, reflecting on the semi-lunar valves, opening a pathway to the vineyard. We give thanks for the mechanical wave produced when the lunar gate to the vineyard closes. We give thanks to the Most High God that provides the light and our breath, and the light in our breath. We give thanks for the fine olfactory system that makes our grapes ripe with light. We give thanks for the Jed Pillar that provides us with a stable fleet of ferry boats to dock in our vineyard. We give thanks for smooth sailing through the pulmonary vein into the storm of the left atrium. We give thanks for the perfect black solar repeater that induces the primary electromagnetic wave, opening the mouth of the Kodesh HaKodeshim. We give thanks for the mechanical wave produced when the mouth of the Kodesh HaKodeshim closes. We give thanks to the ray wave, reflecting on the semi-lunar valves, opening a pathway into the holy royal arch of the Wa scepter. We give thanks for the mechanical wave produced when the lunar gate into the holy royal arch of the Wa scepter closes. We give thanks for the magnetism of the most holy, the magnetism that repels and attracts the ferry boats of light 60,000 miles every 60 seconds throughout our vessels and our caves. Amen.
You need that D, yeah. D, D, D with that blue magic. You need that D, D with that blue magic. You need that D, D with that blue magic. Theology in a bottle. Calcium electric, I'm magnetic. Your kidney electric, your liver magnetic. I'm talking kinetic. That deep put God in the flesh. That deep put God in the flesh. Say it, say it. Electrons in your bones, stay high on that blue magic brain glow set. Dopamine flow, genes mode activate. Orally, fall. All spirit low, chakra, Inky the doctor. Ancient physics streaming on the product. The ketamine, ancient chemic, biblical fact. Bring it back from the scroll to the left, from the text to the trap, yeah. Cash up, super chats on cry to Jesus school. Yeah, run it up, run it up, run it up. Cash up, super chats on cry to Jesus school. Hey, tap in, let's go. Cash up, super chats on cry to Jesus school. Send that love, that love. Cash up, super chats on cry to Jesus school. Hit a like button, send those viral. Typing in the chat, that's tribal. Support the light, it's cycle. Run it back, flip that title. Subscribe, join the Patreon, level up tiers. Hit the website, we been grinding for a year. Get a bush, that brain, and the bank gets bigger. Copy the URL, make the shares go quicker. Posting on your socials, tag that name. One little share, whole feed in flame. Catch them on the screen, up in that frame. Super chat lit, that's jet fuel flame. Cash roll, super chats on cry to just go. Send that love. Cash up, super chats on cry to just go. Just go, let's go. Just go, just go. Come to my YouTube page, don't lag. Bell on locked in, that's swag. Chat going crazy, whole squad in the back. We teaching, we joking, we talk real fast. Linking them ball, you know that code. One click, whole tribe in go mode. From the couch to the glow, that how we roll. Turn views in the fam, that's yeah, screw go, yeah. Cash up, super chats on cry to just go. Send that love, that love. Cash up, super chats on cry to just go. Just go, just go, just go.
Share the video, hit the like, subscribe, Cash App, Super Chat, AmericanHealer.website, Amazon. Go to AmericanHealer.website now. Get the tools for health and inspiration the way God intended.
Yo, what are y'all doing up so early in the morning? That's the real question. What are y'all doing up? When I start the live early, it's usually people in other countries tune in because they're in other time zones. What are y'all doing up? All right, so we're gonna jump. We're gonna start where we left off yesterday, right? We had some technical difficulties. I have technical difficulties right now. Period. All kind of everything going on. But we was in the book, right? We was in the book, and I believe we made it through the intro, or at least the first chapter. Yeah, and we was about to go into the trigonometry book. That's what we was about to do. We was about to go into the trigonometry book. Okay. Yeah, I remember. We made it through. Yeah, that's where we was at. When the frequency doubles, it produces an octave. When the length halves, the pitch doubles, right? And what I did not do is crack open that trigonometry book. So let me bring it up on the screen, or at least attempt to. All right. Can y'all see that? Nope. When you share a stream, y'all, it like dominates your screen. Okay. So this is the main book we're in, right? So if you don't have this book, make sure you go get it. But this is the book I'm getting ready to open up. So if you don't have this book, make sure you add this to your cart and check out. Right? We're getting ready to go into this book briefly, just to kind of double down on some of the stuff that we're talking about in terms of the 3-4-5 triangle. Right? And the 3-4-5 triangle, we talked about the 3-4-5 triangle in reference to the 12 tribes. No, we didn't. We talked about the 3-4-5 triangle in terms of the 12 knots in the rope, right? The 12 knots in the rope that they were able to divide the land, right? So they divided the land amongst the 12 the 12 knots. Right? So we talked about that though, right? And so when you double the frequency, and we're assuming this line is a frequency, right? You double the frequency, you get an octave. If you cut a frequency in half, the pitch doubles, right? And this is the science of sciences. This is the science of all sciences, which is why we have lovingly lovingly named the 3-4-5 triangle the godometer, right? Because the 3-4-5 triangle allows us to measure waves, right? It allows us to measure waves, right? It allows us to measure waves, right? With the square, for my Masons that may be watching, right? The square allows us to measure light, right? The square allows us to measure light and learn and study in degrees. Right? Okay. And then we were talking about doubling and halving, right? Because you double a frequency to get an octave, you halve the frequency to double the pitch. So doubling and halving becomes integral in terms of being able to understand the fundamentals of waves, right? So this math is the language that we use to understand waves in, right? And we saw yesterday when we looked up the history of music notation, they went everywhere except Kemetic, right? So we kind of had to put that right, put that back in order. Put that back in order, right? Yeah. Isn't it interesting? Isn't it interesting? Oh, I need my notebook. I'm not gonna be able to live without that. I will be right back.
You need that D, yeah. D, D, D with that blue magic. You need that D, D with that blue magic. You need that D, D with that blue magic. Theology in a bottle. Calcium electric, I'm magnetic. Your kidney electric, your liver magnetic. I'm talking kinetic. That deep put God in the flesh. That deep put God in the flesh. Say it, say it. Electrons in your bones, stay high on that blue magic brain glow. Set dopamine flow. Genes mode activate. Oral it. Fall. All spirit low. Chakra. Inky the doctor. Ancient physics streaming on the process. The ketamine and ancient chemistry. Biblical fact. Bring it back. From the scroll to the left. From the text to the trap. Yeah.
All right. Isn't it interesting that we often have, like, just how much information is regurgitated? right? Now, for me, it's interesting how much information is regurgitated. But what I try to pay attention to is the information that's left out. Right? I try to pay attention to the information that's left out, especially when something's regurgitated a lot. Right? And this time of year is when all of the Jordan Maxwell videos come out. Right? Or actually, I should say not. The Jordan Maxwell, they have robbed and pillaged Jordan Maxwell. So you don't see Jordan Maxwell videos anymore. What you see is a bunch of people pretending like they came up with stuff that they got from Jordan Maxwell videos. Or you see the faceless videos. That's faceless, like they just the timeless wisdom videos, and they're remixing some Jordan Maxwell stuff. But this time of year, you always hear like how they messed around with the calendar because it's New Year's. So you hear that they messed around with the calendar and the New Year's not really the New Year because Rome wanted to conquer the world. And so, they put, July and August, right? We hear about that. No? Am I the only person? If y'all up, y'all got to be up. If y'all awake, y'all got to be awake. Am I the only person that sees those videos? Come on, chat. I can't be the only person that sees those videos about Julius Caesar in July and Augustus Caesar in August, right? That's the reason why September is the 9th month instead of the 7th month, and November, right? October is supposed to be the 8th month, but October is the 10th month because we have 2 fake months that was added to the calendar, right? The year is supposed to be 10 months even, but we had 2 fake months added into the calendar, July and August, for, to always commemorate the dominance of Rome over the rest of the world. Right. So there we go. So I know I'm not crazy. Somebody's awake, right? Somebody's up. You know what I'm saying? So what I like to see is the thing they leave out. They always leave this out. The octave. The octave was already taught as the ogdode. The ogdode was already taught. Remember, in Kemet, you have the Kemenu, right? In Kemet, you have the Kemenu. When the Greeks come in and they learn about the Kemenu, they change the name of the Kemenu from the 8 black gods to the ogdode. When the Romans take over or conquer the Greeks, they rename it octave from Octavius. So I'm just saying, it's interesting that we always hear about how Julius and Augustus Caesar, but we forget, or maybe they don't forget, maybe they just omit it. And because nobody's doing original research, right? Because nobody's doing original research. They forget Augustus is Octavius, which is the reason why they put Octavius in where they put him in, right? August is the 8th month. August is the 8th month. They put August in the 8th slot for a reason. They didn't just randomly take over the 8th month, right? It's because his name is Octavius. Yeah. Yeah, let's go here. You see? Augustus Caesar, born Gallus Octavius. Yeah. We forget that little interesting piece of information. Or not forget, people never learned it. They never knew it. Right? There's no person of reference to teach them that before me, Dr. Inky. I'm the reference point. I'm the source material. So post today, somebody can reference this video. Like, no, Inky broke it down. Inky said. I just don't think that anybody ever uncovered that. So for me, it's interesting that people just miss that. Right? So many times we've heard about Julius Caesar and Augustus Caesar taking over the calendar. We forget the role of Caesar. The role of Caesar as God. The role of Caesar as God, or God's representation on earth, right? Which is also taken from the concept of the Pharaoh. And it was canonized in the concept of the Pope, right? So technically, we still have a Caesar. We still have a Caesar. Not necessarily in name, but in title, we still have a Caesar. Yeah. So this is where the ogdo disappears and becomes the octave, right? Behind Caesar. All right. So let's get into some of this math. All right. So trigonometry. If you have this book, take it out. Right? When some people look at the cover of this book, they see the shin. Right? When some people look at this book, they see the omega. Right? When some people look at the cover of this book, They see the histones. They see your DNA, right? Because this is how your histones look. You have the H1 histone, wraps up the 4 sets of twins, and the 4 sets of twins have all your genetic memory in there, right? So even I try to design these books to where, because I used to do a lot of reading, I got a lot of studying done, a lot of transformative study done when I lived in New Jersey. You know what I'm saying? My life has always been like struggle. You know what I'm saying? For one reason or another, struggling to get to do something, to take care of, to handle, to. So when I come up to New York, I'm working at Verizon. I start working at Verizon in Georgia. I transfer my job up to New York, right? My babies are struggling. I got to get up to New York to try to take care of my babies. So by any means necessary. So I transfer my job from Georgia to New York. I can't find a place in New York. So I'm staying with my little brother in Jersey. Now I'm working all the way up in Co-op City in the top of the Bronx. In the top of the Bronx. In fact, the new Running Man movie is, when you look at it, there's no aesthetics from the Bronx, but it's supposed to be set in the Bronx because the star of the movie is supposed to be like in Co-op City or whatever the case may be. But anyway, so that's where I'm working at. I'm living in Newark, New Jersey. So it's pretty much like 3 hours each way on the train and the bus. Yeah, there's a little bus mixed in. So I'm taking the bus from the house. When I wake up in the morning in Newark, I take one bus and then I switch to another bus. So I take 2 buses to Penn Station, I think it's called Penn Station. And then from there, I take 2 trains to get into New York. And then from there, I take 1 train to 42nd and jump on the 2 of the 5 line. So I switch at 42nd and then ride that from 42nd all the way up to the 2 of the 5 line, and then hop on another bus. So that's 2 buses, 2 trains, another 2 trains, and then another bus. So yeah, 3 buses and 4 trains each way, right? To get to work and then to go home. So my comfort was that I get, I have my headphones and my books. So I get my study in. And every so often, what I was reading would spark conversation, right? I never mind conversation, opportunity to share information, teach, right? So somebody would ask me, hey, what is that you're reading? And then it's a wrap from there. I'm getting ready to talk your head off until either you get off the train or I get off the train. But it's, yeah, because then other people going to get involved. I'm getting ready to turn this whole cart into a classroom. So I always kept that in mind, though, that, the cover of a book can create a classroom wherever you are. You know what I'm saying? The cover of a book can create a classroom environment wherever you are. Because somebody will ask you, hey, what is that? What is that you're reading? And then boom, the door is open. Now, if you give them a closed answer, Shame on you. You're supposed to open that right on up because they're giving you a doorway into their mind. Hey, what is that you're reading right there? You don't know what this is? What? You don't know what this is? What? What made you ask me that? I've been waiting. I've been patiently waiting for it. So anyway, right? This symbol is an important symbol. Let me go back. See, that's another Dr. Inky discovery. See? So you can open up any type of conversation with the covers of these books. But anyway, trigonometry, branch or doctrine of mathematics that deals with relations between sides and angles of triangles. It comes from the Latin word trigonometria, from the Greek word trigonum, which is a combination of triangle and metron, a measure. So to measure triangles. Everything in Kemet was based on trigonometry. The Platonic solids is watered down Kemetic science. A circle was measured with and created by triangles. Right? And then you obviously have this, which most of us learn in school, that you start off with a point, right? You start off with a point in space, right? A point, a particle in a vacuum, right? Point in space. And then when you get a second point in space, now you can form a line, right? And you don't have shape yet. You don't have shape yet. You don't have multiple dimensions yet. Well, actually, you have two dimensions, right? And then you have your third point. And your third point gives you the first shape, which is a triangle. And it is the strongest shape and blah, 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 blah. Right? We kind of learned that. Right? So that is how one dot becomes the first shape. And then also one line becomes three. And in that process, you're creating 1, 2, 3 angles, hence the term triangle, right? And so since this is the first shape, all other shapes come from triangles. Like you can divide a circle into 6 triangles, right? The circle and the square, or well, the square is obvious, right? So your entire measurement system comes from the point, the singularity, right? Which expands out into a triangle, right? So the point would represent Kepra, and before the point, before the one, before the first emergence, you would obviously have Nun, nothing, undifferentiated potential, right? So in the world of trigonometry, right? In the world of trigonometry, you have your sine, cosine, you still need that cosine, right? You got the tangent, cosecant, second, and the cotangent. Now, the sine, cosine, and the tangent are probably the three most important, the three most familiar. We're not going to go super deep into these, right? Because our conversation is not necessarily trigonometry in of itself, as much as our conversation is the magnetic field intersecting with the electric field at a 90-degree angle to produce light, right? That is what we are primarily concerned with. Right? The electric field, the magnetic field, and the production of light. Now, what you'll notice is if we take this, right? First of all, without adding this little square in there, right? Without adding the square in there, what do we have right here? This is just a very interesting coincidence. This is not trigonometry or science or anything. This is just a coincidence. It's just one of those things I happen to notice as I'm studying, right? As I'm in my God is light bag, right? As I'm in my God is light bag, as I'm in my Masonic bag, right? This is just something I just happen to notice, right? The magnetic field intersects the electric field at a 90-degree angle to produce light, right? So it's, for me, this is just an interesting thing that it is an L. It's just interesting to me that it's an L. That's all. Right? Because God in the Bible is light, but God in the Bible is also L. Just saying. It's very interesting. Again, just one of those coincidences. You know what I'm saying? Like the fact that L, right, is also elements. L is also elements. Anyway, this is our main interest. Our main interest is that the electric field and the magnetic field produce light at 90-degree angle. right? So it just becomes interesting that if you take that symbol, right, and you turn it like this, it starts to look familiar. Right? So anyway, doubling and halving, right? We're going to skip all of this stuff about trigonometry, 3 squared and 4 squared and all this and all that. Input and function equals output. Okay. All right, so skip those pages and go to page 17. That's if you have the book. If you want to know what's on the pages that we skip, you need to go and get the book. Right? You want to know what's on the pages we skip, go get the book. All right. Let's do this. Because we have some examples in the book. And we'll just walk through that. Right? So you can get an idea of this. All right, so 25 times 32. 25 times 32. How would they figure this out in Kemetic? Right? In Kemetic, this is what they would do. Right? In Kemetic, this is what they would do. Doubling and halving, right? So we're doubling these numbers. Starting with the number 1, 2, 4, 8, 16. Right? Now we stop at 16 because doubling 16 would give us a higher number than 25. Right? So we stop at 16. Now, the amount of flips you did in the first column is the amount of flips you do in the second column. So we flip 1 5 times. This means we will bring that 32 down and flip it 5 times. Right? So we're going to go 32, 64, 128, 256, 512. Right? The next part is magic. Because what you're going to do is you're going to create a oblong square, which find any amount of numbers in the first column and add that up to the top number above it. Right? So 16 plus 8 plus 1 equals 25. 16 plus 8 plus 1 equals 25. Just like a number scale. And now that we have that, we're going to use them to tell you which numbers to add for the answer. So we're going to add 32, 256, and 512. 32, 256, and 512 is going to give us an answer. 32 plus 256 plus 512 gives us 800. And this is how they would use doubling and halving to figure out a multiplication problem in Kemet. Straight across. Straight across. Because the 8, the 16, and the number 1 add up to 25, the number itself tells you where to find your answer. So it's like a sliding scale. It's like it's telling you which one is which one. Right? So because we use this, we use that. Because we use this, we use that. Because we use this, we use that. And so the multiplication problem always gets converted into an addition problem, which is easier to do. It's easier to add numbers, right? Your multiplication always gets converted into addition, right? Because when you're doubling, that's addition, right? 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 plus 2 is 4. 4 plus 4 is 8. 8 plus 8 is 16. Same thing on the other side. These numbers are familiar, right? That's kind of why I picked these to go in the book, because these numbers are familiar. These are the numbers that we use in terms of our computers, right? 32-bit, 64-bit, 128, 256, half a gig, right? So that's how addition, or that's how multiplication was done. And we have more examples in the book, right? We have more examples in the book. Maybe we should do division. We have a division example. Right? 25 fois 32 égale 800 parce que 800 divisé par 32 égale 25. All right. Somebody said that French was horrible. All right. So let's go 784. Let's go 784 divided by 4. Right? 784 divided by 4. Right? So we start our columns. Right? So our columns look like this. Did I skip something on this side? Oh, I sure did. Okay. All right. So we use the 4 column to figure out, right? Now, we have a reference that's important, right? These two columns, when you go through the anatomical papyri, right? When you go through the anatomical papyri, it says that the body is held up by 2 columns. Later on, these 2 columns become important, right? Because you have 2 pillars, Jack and Boaz, etc. But and there's a lot of different philosophies and science talk about the 2 pillars of the world, right? But these become bigger than just math because they play a role in anatomy, in Kemetic. All right, so anyway, we jump over to our 4 column, right? And we use some numbers from the 4 column to add up to the target number, right? Why are we doing that on this side? Because multiplication is opposite division, right? So where we use this side on the multiplication, for division, we're going to use the right side, right? So now we're going to find a way to add up to our target number the same way we did before, right? So we're going to use 512, 256, and the number 16, right? 512, 256, and 16 give us our target number, 784. So now we know, right? We go backwards to find our answer. We just add the numbers that are on the opposite side, and that's our answer, right? So 4 plus 64 plus 128. That's going to give us our answer, right? Now somebody add those numbers up for me real quick. Somebody add those numbers up for me real quick. Come on, chat, wake up. Somebody add them numbers for me. 4 plus 64 plus 128 gives us 196. 196 times 4 is what? 6 times 4. 4 times 9 plus the 2. Right? And then we put up what? 3. So we got our answer. 196, right? 4 plus 64 plus 128. So that's how they would do their division. That's how they would do their division in Kemet, right? But doubling and halving. Doubling and halving. You're doubling on this side, you're doubling on that side. Yeah. So this becomes important because, again, when you get into music, all of the octaves are based on this pattern of doubling, right? Shape, geometry, right? You start with the one emerging out of nothing. Then you add a counterpart and a triple, right? And doubles and triples become your chords. Doubles and triples become your chords, right? So this doubling winds up giving you right? Binary code, right? This winds up being the origin of your binary code, right? All right. So when a frequency doubles, it produces the octave. When a length halves, the pitch doubles. This is not music theory first, it is wave closure first. The same doubling logic appears in string harmonics, pipe resonance, binary arithmetic, electric oscillators, calendar cycles, biological renewal rhythms. The octave is not a cultural invention. It is the first stable closure condition of any bound wave system. This is why the Kemetic exists structurally, not symbolically. 8 is the minimum number of phase states that allows counter rotation, resonance pairing, harmonic closure. The ogdode is the wave phase architecture of preform reality, just as the octave is the wave phase architecture of audible sound. Now connect this directly to measurement, the calendar, and biology, because this is where coherence becomes undeniable. The Kemetic civil year contains 3 seasons, 4 months, 30 days, 12 months, 5 additional epigomenal days, which is a total of 365 days. Each season is exactly 120 days. This is not arbitrary. 120 days is the full physiological renewal window of human blood and many tissue systems. It is also a half a rotation multiple of the base 60 system used in angular motion, timekeeping, and resonance management. What looks like calendar mythology is actually wave cycle accounting mapped onto biological regeneration. The calendar is not for superstition. It is a metabolic cosmic phase synchronizer. When you say the 3-4-5 triangle measures God, what that actually means in plain English is the 3-4-5 triangle is the minimum geometric operator that converts perpendicular standing oscillations into a single directed traveling wave. If God is organized motion, then the 3-4-5 triangle is the simplest working tool that resolves divinity into direction. It transforms. Yeah, I'm trolling, my bad. I'm forgetting y'all not looking at what I'm looking at. There we go. But get the book. In the beginning was the wave. Right? Then you won't have to follow along the screen. You'll have the book in front of you. Right? If God is organized motion, then the 3-4-5 triangle is the simplest working tool that resolves divinity into direction. It transforms containment into propagation, resonance into trajectory, structure into transmission. This is why it appears in construction, surveying, navigation, music, wave physics, and modern signal engineering. From that same operator flows the entire logic of doubling, which becomes the octave in music, binary in computation, harmonic series in physics, and power of two scaling in electronics. None of these are cultural coincidences. None of these are cultural coincidences. They are all expressions of one wave law operating in different media. The calendar, the triangle, the octave, the binary system, and the blood renewal cycle are not separate inventions. They are the same resonance mathematics applied to time, sound, light, architecture, and physiology. Kemet did not need Maxwell or Schrodinger to know this. They observed it directly as repeating coherence across sky, body, stone. Right? Yeah. Oh, okay. We're on the same page. They observed it directly as repeating coherence across the sky, body, and stone. So the Church of Winnenefer states, the Church of Winnenefer Christ states, Ray is the solar wave. The almond-shaped glyph is the standing wave. The solar disk is a resonant wave cavity. The 3-4-5 triangle is the spatial operator converting standing oscillation into directed motion, aka the godometer. Doubling is the frequency law of stable wave closure. The Kemetic are the phase architecture of preform resonance, the form of formlessness. The calendar is a wave cycle accounting mapped onto biology. Blood renewal, like sound and light, obeys the same resonance timing, 120 days, 120 day seasons of 7.365 pH. This is not mythology describing objects. This is an ancient field engineering worldview expressed without algebra. They were not measuring stones, they were measuring organized motion. They were not symbolizing gods, they were encoding wave operators. Reality exists because traveling waves collapse into standing waves, and standing waves release back into traveling waves. In the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. All things were made by him, and without him was made not anything that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. You can easily reread these verses as, in the beginning was the standing wave, and the standing wave was with traveling waves, and the standing wave was traveling waves. The same was in the beginning with traveling waves. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the traveling waves shineth in the darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. We are going to read that again. We're going to read that. that one more time. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shineth in the darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. You can easily reread these verses as in the beginning was the standing wave, and the standing wave was with traveling waves, and the standing wave was traveling waves. The same was in the beginning with traveling waves. All things were made by him, and without him not anything made that was made. And without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the traveling wave shineth in the darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not.
From the Jew with the juju. On the street, truth preaching, God is the wave. Bible cracked open, but the scriptures engraved. Human birth, the stars, quantum thoughts behave. Your heart pumps Christ, inspirations of crave. Diabetes or war, sugar coated sin. Syrup in the veins, bitter battle begin. Yeah. Spiritual warfare, the weapons within. Faith in the blood, watch the healing spin. Mountain Dew, Mountain Dew, Mountain Dew.
Melanin versus diabetes, we in here. We discovered it. In the beginning was the wave. The wave was with God, and the wave was God.
In the beginning was the wave.
Melanin versus diabetes, we in here. We discovered it. In the beginning was the wave. The wave was with God, and the wave was God. Melanin versus diabetes, we in here. We discovered it. In the beginning was the wave. The wave was with God, and the wave was God.
In the beginning was the wave. The wave was God. The wave was God. The wave was hard. Every step a symphony. Timelines infinity. The wave erased injury. I'm the divine epiphany. We made history. Articulated mystery. The wave is a remedy. God kissed me. Listen, we made history. Flawless victory. They dissing me in misery. In misery. It don't get to me. But we made history. I gotta live it. My juice was efficiently. But we made history. Magician tweet. We made history. Rewriting industry. Ain't no quitting me. Bro, we made history. Articulating mystery. Clarify the vision. We dancing in victory. We made history. In heaven, walk with me. In the way, swim with me. In the beginning was the wave. The wave was a God. The wave was God. The wave was hard. Every step a symphony. Timelines infinity. The wave erased injury. I'm the divine epiphany. We made history. Articulated mystery. The wave is a remedy. God kissing me. Listen, we made history. Flawless victory. They dissing me in misery. Misery. Man, I made history. It don't get to me. Bro, we made history. I gotta live this. My jewels used efficiently. Bro, we made history. History. We made history. Rewriting industry. Ain't no quit. quitting me. Bro, we made history, articulating mystery. Clarify the vision, we dancing in victory. We made history, in heaven, walk with me. In the way, swim with me. In the beginning was the way was God, the way was God, the way was hard. Every step was symphony, timelines, infinity, the way be erased century. I'm the divine epiphany. We made history, articulating mystery, the wave is a remedy. God kissing, listen, we made history, flawless victory, they dissing me in misery, mad I made history, it don't get to me. Bro, we made history, I got a litter, my jewels used efficiently. Bro, we made history, we made history, rewriting industry, ain't no quitting me. Bro, we made history, articulating mystery, clarify the vision, we dancing in victory. We made history, in heaven, walk with me, in the waves with me. In the beginning was the way was God, the way was God, the way was hard. Every step was symphony, timelines infinity, the wave erased century. I'm the divine epiphany. We made history, articulating mystery, the wave is the remedy. God kissing me, listen, we made history, flawless victory, they dissing me in misery. Man, I made history, it don't get to me. Bro, we made history, I got a litter, my juice used efficiently. Bro, we made history, we made history, rewriting industry, ain't no quitting me. Bro, we made history, articulating mystery, clarify the vision, we dancing in victory. We made history, in heaven, walk with me, in the ways with me. In the beginning was the way was God, the way was God, the way was hard. Every step was symphony, timelines infinity, the way be erased century. I'm the divine epiphany. We made history, articulating mystery, the wave is a remedy. God kissing me, listen, we made history, flawless victory, they dissing me in misery. Man, I made history, it don't get to me. Bro, we made history, I got a litter, my jewels used efficiently. Bro, we made history. We made history, rewriting industry, ain't no quitting me. Bro, we made history, articulating mystery, clarify the vision, we dancing in victory. Bro, we made history, in heaven, walk with me, in the ways with me. Frontline God infantry, the wave is the ministry. Surfboard wizardry, frozen water liberty, truth defying imagery, geometric symmetry, standing wave mimicry. The wave is the energy, the trickery is slippery, the slippery was meant to be. Now I gotta hit the street, thank God for picking me to release the quickening. I made history, is sickening. Me and God be whispering, then I sprout the living spring. Bro, we made history, shining, glistening, emphatic christening. I found a missing link, everybody get in sync. Superstition is extinct, peer review what you think. Look how the haters link, don't forget the kitchen sink. The way glistening, the way christening, the way the missing link. Wave get in sync, superstition is extinct. Peer review what you think. Look how the haters link, don't forget the kitchen sink. The way glistening, the way christening, the way the missing link. Way get insane, superstition is extinct. Peer review what you think. Look how the haters link, don't forget the kitchen sink. How I hit the beat, Christ is the living key. Take the grail, sip and see. Fish scale, flip a key. In the beginning was the way was the way, the way was God, the way was hard. Every step was symphony, timelines infinity, the way be erased century. I'm the divine epiphany. Frontline God infantry. The wave is the ministry, surfboard wizardry, frozen water imagery, true defy imagery, geometric symmetry, standing wave mimicry. The wave is the energy, the trickery is slippery, discovery was meant to be. I gotta hit the street, thank God for picking me to release the quickening. I made history is sickening, me and God be whispering, and that's about to live in spring, bro. We made history, shining, glistening.
A little bit of adrenaline for you. Wake y'all butts up. So you can have that in your head all day. In the beginning. All right. So keep in mind, darkness only exists in your mind. Light is everywhere at all times. But you can only interpret a small fraction of that light. Reality exists because traveling waves collapse into standing waves, and standing waves release back into traveling waves. This is the oscillation that creates universes, atoms, lives, minds, etc. God is not outside of this process. God is the traveling field itself. The word is not decoration. The word is the standing pattern God leaves behind as structure. God is the traveling wave. The word is the standing wave. This is not metaphor. This is structural physics expressed in theology. Structural physics expressed in theology. The Gospel of John does not begin with matter. It begins with organization. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Before form, before light, before substance, there is vibration structured into meaning. A word is not an object. A word is a ordered oscillation carrying information. In physical terms, that is a standing wave, a stable pattern of vibration that does not travel through space, but holds structure in place. It doesn't travel, it holds structure in place. This is why we have a periodic table. Each one of the atoms on the periodic table, represents that pattern of standing waves, right? From hydrogen all the way on through. And being able to map first these standing wave patterns, the natural ones, then science was able to, that's when the maximum level of arrogance kicked in. Once science was able to synthetically create elements in the laboratory, right? So the first, I want to say 90 or so elements are natural. And then after that, you have the laboratory created elements, which gives us, I don't know, 110, 120 different elements that you now see on the periodic table. So again, the statement is not saying God is the word in a literal sense. It's saying God is a word identical. God is identical with the word at the foundational level. This is a statement of wave ontology, divine reality expressed first as organized vibration, not material substance. Immediately after, the text says all things were made through him. This means structure, matter, mass is built through oscillation. That is precisely how physics works. Atoms, molecules, light, space-time itself emerge from organized wave behavior, right? Standing waves. No structure in nature exists without standing waves. I'm going to repeat that again. No structure in nature exists without standing waves. So the basis and essence of theology, specifically focused on the Bible, specifically focused on Kemetic theology, is 1000% correct scientifically, right? 1000% correct, right? 1000% correct, at least as far as our modern science can validate. No structure in nature exists without standing waves. How do we know that? Because no structure in nature exists that is not made out of atoms. which is the reason why we have a periodic table in the first place, right? Electrons in atoms are standing waves. Chemical bonds are standing wave overlaps. DNA stability is standing wave geometry. The Bible is not saying God spoke in a poetic sense. It is saying reality crystallized out of ordered vibration. Then comes the crucial next line. And the word became flesh. This is the collapse from standing wave information into material form. That is exactly how physics describes matter. Mass is confined wave energy. E equals mc squared is simply the mathematical simplified expression of John chapter 1, verse 14. Energy, traveling wave, becomes mass, standing wave. The message is not religious first, it is physical first, written in theological language. Now we move backward into Kemet. In Kemetic cosmology, before there is form, there is none, or noon, undifferentiated potential. Noon is not water in the chemical sense. Noon is the field before structure. Exactly what modern physics calls a quantum field or vacuum state. From noon emerges Ra, not as a mythic sun alone, but as a self-moving light. The first traveling wave. Ra is pure propagation. Ra is motion without confinement. That is energy in the modern sense. Opposite Ra stands Osiris, not a death god, but the god of structure, of binding, of enclosure, of regeneration, of stability. Osiris is what happens when the traveling light of Ra is captured in standing form. Vegetation, bones, seeds, bodies, cycles. Osiris is literally the entity of energy frozen into pattern. That is mass. That is mass, which is one of the reasons why Osiris represents inertia, right? Inertia. Between them stands Heru, Horus, not merely a sun figure, but the interface of transmission, the messenger that converts the motion of Ra into the structure of Osiris and back again. Horus is the mechanism of conversion between the traveling and standing states. This is what modern physics encodes as the propagation constant and coupling dynamics. So Kemet already had full wave ontology. None as the unexpressed field potential, Ra as traveling wave energy, Osiris as standing wave structure, Horus as the conversion interface. This is not metaphorical symmetry. It is the same physical roles later formalized in quantum field theory. Now you jump forward from there into quantum mechanics. Modern physics confirms that nothing is truly a particle. Everything is a wave function first. Electrons are probability waves. Photons are field oscillations. Protons are bound resonant modes. Even space-time itself behaves as a vibrating field at the deepest level. Matter is not made of stuff. It is made of standing wave containment. Motion is traveling wave propagation. The division between energy and mass is not a division of substance. It is a division of wave state. A traveling wave carries force, momentum, and transmission. A standing wave carries structure, memory, stability. This is true in strings, pipes, atoms, nerves, blood vessels, and light itself, right? This is why the 3-4-5 triangle is such a hot piece of intellectual property. In the game of intellectual property, the 3-4-5 triangle is Park Place and Boardwalk. Think of it like that. Think of it that way. In the game of intellectual property, the 3-4-5 triangle is Park Place and Boardwalk. Now, when John says the Word was with God and the Word was God, he is saying the standing wave pattern and the traveling wave source are not two different substances. They are two states of the same underlying reality. Now, the unification becomes precise. God, the traveling wave, source, motion, radiance, force, propagation, right? The Word is the standing wave, structure, information, pattern, memory. Reality exists because traveling waves collapse into standing waves, and standing waves release back into traveling waves. This is the oscillation that creates universes, atoms, lives, and minds. God is not outside this process. God is the traveling field itself. The Word is not decoration. The Word is a standing pattern God leaves behind as structure. When theology says creation, physics says wave to structure conversion. When theology says resurrection, physics says structure to wave release. When theology says spirit, physics says field energy. When theology says flesh, physics says standing resonance. All of it is the same process seen through different symbolic technologies. God is the traveling wave. The Word is the standing wave. Creation is their perpetual conversion. This motif does not claim that ancient people wrote Schrodinger's equations. It claims something far stronger and more defensible. They correctly identify the ontological categories of reality, motion, confinement, transmission, and regeneration, and encoded them in symbolic systems long before humans had the mathematics to formalize them. Quantum mechanics merely quantified what theology and cosmology had already categorized. Light is everywhere at all times, but you can only interpret a small fraction of that. Reality exists because traveling waves collapse into standing waves, and standing waves release back into traveling waves. This is the oscillation that creates universes, atoms, lives, minds. God is not outside the process. God is the traveling field itself. The Word is not decoration. The Word is the standing pattern God leaves behind as structure. The QRS complex is usually described as an electrical spike, but in physical terms, it is a traveling wave moving through a preloaded energy system. When the ventricles depolarize, the charge swings across millions of cardiac cells in a coordinated front. This is a literal wave of motion, a propagation of voltage. It is not symbolic, not metaphorical, not poetic. It is physics. But this traveling wave is only half of what a heartbeat is. For that wave to move, the heart must already be holding energy in place, storing it as tension, voltage, ionic imbalance. Without that stored field, the QRS spike would collapse instantly. A traveling wave cannot exist unless it is riding on top of a standing wave beneath it.
rolling through the sand like a thought in disguise. The scarab spins truth where the cosmos collide. Energy whispers, it never says goodbye. The Beatles crawl, the Beatles rise.
Go to AmericanHealer.website now. Get the tools for health and inspiration the way God intended.
Saw the burst, the chaos, yet the chaos rise. My name, Beatles, 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 over and over, spinning the world in the grip of their shoulders. Beatles, 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 under and over, rolling through time till the blackness is sober. The heat fades lower, the order begins. The stillness so perfect, it hums from within. The void sings softly, entropy takes a bow. In the shadow of silence, the scarab knows how. The second law is dancing, feeding life through decay. The third law holds the promise that the stillness will stay. Beatles,
Go to AmericanHealer.website now. Get the tools for health and inspiration the way God intended.
All right, so again, when the ventricles depolarize, the charge swings across millions of cardiac cells in a coordinated front. This is a literal wave of motion, a propagation of voltage. It is not symbolic, not metaphorical, not poetic. It is physics. But this traveling wave is only half of what a heartbeat is. For that wave to move, the heart must already be holding energy in place, storing it as tension, voltage, ionic imbalance. Without that stored field, the Christ spark would collapse instantly. A traveling wave cannot exist unless it is riding on top of a standing wave beneath it. This standing wave foundation is built during the quieter moments of the heartbeat, what we call a diastole. When the chambers relax and fill, they are not resting, they are loading. The heart walls stretch like a drum membrane, storing elastic energy. The cardiac cells reload their ionic gradients, storing electrical energy. The blood inside them stabilizes pressure gradients, storing hydraulic energy. All three forms, elastic, electrical, and fluid, form a resonant field that sits waiting, stable and unmoving. Similar to that ocean we imagined yesterday, right? Similar to that ocean we imagined yesterday. Oh man, did I leave y'all back a few pages? No, y'all right there. Yeah, y'all right there. Stable and unmoving. This is the standing wave space. The traveling wave of depolarization moves through this stored field like lightning across a charged sky. Without the charge, lightning is impossible. The transition from QRS to the T wave proves that the heart oscillates between these two states, traveling and standing wave, every single beat. After the depolarization wave finishes its journey, the heart must restore its standing waves, its standing state. It must rebuild its membrane potentials, reload its gradients, and reestablish its internal tension. This process is the T wave. You can look at an ECG and literally see the heart recharge the standing wave that will allow the next traveling wave to exist. The electrical system of the heart is not a straight line. It is a cycle of creation, release, collapse, resurrection. Even blood flow itself follows the same dual wave logic. The arteries store energy as standing waves and release it as traveling waves. When the ventricles contract, they generate a pressure surge. That is the traveling wave, but the arteries do not simply act as hoses. They behave like elastic chambers. They stretch, hold energy, then recoil. That recoil is a standing wave turning back into motion. This is why circulation continues even when the heart is between beats. The vessels act as resonant reservoirs. They preserve wave energy in standing form and release it again in traveling form. They release it again in traveling form, just like the heart. The QRST complex, when viewed as a whole, is a complete cycle of standing energy becoming traveling energy. Standing energy becoming traveling motion and returning to standing energy again. QRS is release. T is restoration. Diastole is storage. Systole is expression. Pressure waves travel down the vessels, but the vessel walls themselves hold the energy in place between beats. At every level, electrical, mechanical, and fluid, the heartbeat is a wave engine converting stored resonance into directed flow. This is why the heart never behaves like a mechanical pump. Pumps push, the heart resonates. This duality is exactly the ancient relationship between traveling waves and standing waves, between Ra and Osiris, between motion and structure, between breath and form. Ra is the moving light, the traveling wave. Osiris is the stable underworld, the standing wave. In the heart, Ra is the QRS, depolarization wave racing through the tissue. Osiris is the preloaded membrane voltage and elastic tension that remains still. Ma'at is the precision balance between the two. Heru is the conduction interface. Nun is the medium of water and blood that allows the entire thing to propagate. These are not metaphors layered onto biology. These are forces ancient people described with myth because they lack the mathematical language. And this is why inspiration is not only bold, it is physically defensible. God is the traveling wave, and the word is the standing wave. In Genesis, the word is what holds form, the standing, structured entity. In John chapter 1, the word was God, mirrors the fact that the ultimate creative power is stored potential, not motion. But the moment God speaks, moment is released, the traveling wave. And in the heart, the QRST pattern repeats this same divine architecture every second of your life. The standing wave holds the pattern, the traveling wave animates it. Life is the union of the two. The other key aspect to this chapter is memory. Memory appears the moment waves and structures start talking to each other. Memory doesn't require a brain. All of creation is memory. Memory at the deepest physical level is not a collection of stored objects. It is a persistent pattern that remains after motion has passed. In physics, memory exists wherever a system's future behavior is constrained, by its past excitation. A system remembers what traveling disturbance permanently alters the way later disturbances propagate. Memory is therefore not a substance, it is a geometry of persistence. Take a breath. Because I know if you're reading that at home by yourself, you might be saying to yourself, what is Inky talking about? Right? The same way you can look at a child. You can look at a child and immediately that child is a memory of its two parents. If you've seen the two parents and you see the child, when you look at the child, you'll immediately see glimpses of the two parents. A smile that reminds you of the mom or the dad, or a nose, or a walk, or a habit that popped out of nowhere, or the way the eyes or whatever, right? The head shape, or the build, shoulders, lower body, whatever. Our planet, right? Our planet is constantly acted on by forces from outside our atmosphere, right? That is memory, right? That is memory. In our computers, right? Your hard drive is like a record, like an old school record, right? It is, the memory is ingrained in the magnetic field by, well, they got different technology now. So maybe we should just go to a record or a CD, probably be easier, right? On the bottom side of your CD, which is why CDs was annoying, the CD gets scratched because where the information is printed on the CD, right, engraved on the CD, you got perfect sound as long as that remains undisturbed, because that engraving is the memory, is the information, right? And so if you scratch it, which means if you put a random engraving through the engraving, then it messes up what you have there. Same thing with records. Records would eventually get scratched, right? So that engraving, though, initially of the record, when the record gets pressed or when the CD gets printed, that engraving is the memory of motion, of force, of what acted on it, of the disturbance. Right? So hopefully that simplifies for you. We'll read it again. The other key to this chapter is memory. Memory appears the moment waves and structures start talking to each other. Memory doesn't require a brain. All of creation is memory. Memory at the deepest physical level is not a collection of stored objects. It is a persistent pattern that remains after motion has passed. In physics, memory exists wherever a system's future behavior is constrained by its past excitation. A system remembers when a traveling disturbance permanently alters the way later disturbances propagate. Memory is therefore not a substance, it is a geometry of persistence. A purely traveling wave in a perfectly featureless void leaves no memory. If a wave passes through a medium with no structure, no boundaries, no field, no capacity for deformation, the wave disappears without a trace. Motion by itself does not store history. Memory only appears when a wave interacts with a medium capable of being reshaped into a new, stable configuration. Once a wave propagates through any real medium, memory becomes physically possible. Interface allows overlapping waves to form standing patterns. Nonlinear response allows strong waves to permanently alter the medium. Boundary reflection allows repeated phase locking. When these processes occur, the passage of a wave produces a lasting rearrangement in the structure of the medium. The wave no longer exists, but the geometry it carved remains. That altered geometry is memory. Even the vacuum of space is not truly empty. What is called a vacuum in modern physics is a structured quantum field in its lowest energy state. It possesses stiffness, tension, fluctuation, and the capacity for curvature. When waves propagate through this field, especially gravitational or high energy field excitations, they leave lasting distortions in the geometry or configuration of the field. The field after the wave has passed is not precisely the same as before. In this way, even space itself retains geometric memory of traveling excitation. Memory, therefore, always emerges through the same mechanism. Traveling energy reshaping a field into a new standing configuration. The traveling wave is the act of creation. The traveling wave is the act of creation. The standing pattern is the record of that act. The traveling wave is the act of creation. The standing pattern is the record of that act. All memory in nature follows this universal rule, from space-time curvature down to biological tissue. In physical systems, repeated wave activity drives a medium into stable attractor states. A guitar string driven at certain frequencies reshapes its tension and boundary response so that it naturally favors those modes. A room driven by sound develops preferred standing acoustic patterns determined by its geometry. A crystal grown in a magnetic field retains magnetic domain alignment long after the field is removed. In every case, motion creates structure and structure becomes memory. In living systems, memory emerges through the same law. Repeated electrical waves in neural tissue shape synaptic density and network geometry. The wave pattern ceases, but the pathway remains. Repeated pressure and conduction waves in cardiac tissue remodel conduction fibers and vascular elasticity. Metabolic electron and proton waves reshape mitochondria membranes and enzyme topology. The biological memory is not the wave itself, it is the standing geometry written by the wave. In the electron transport chain of the mitochondria, tunneling is not electrons disappearing and reappearing. It is the electrons moving by resonance, the same way one tuning fork can make another identical tuning fork vibrate from across the room. The proteins in the ETC are arranged with pigments, metal centers, and aromatic rings.
to AmericanHealer.website now. Get the tools for health and inspiration the way God intended.
Sort of burst the chaos, yet the chaos rise my name. Beatles, 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 over and over, spinning the world in the grip of their shoulders. Beatles, 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 under and over, rolling through time till the blackness is sober. The heat fades lower, the order begins. The stillness so perfect, it hums from within. The void sings softly, entropy takes a bow. In the shadow of silence, the scarab knows how. The second law is dancing, feeding life through decay. The third law holds the promise that the stillness will stay. Time till the blackness is sober.
Go to AmericanHealer.website now. Get the tools for health and inspiration the way God intended.
The proteins in the electron transport chain are arranged with pigments, metal centers, and aromatic rings, placed at specific distances that match electron vibrational frequencies. Now, this is another spot where geometry becomes important, right? Geometry becomes important because this shape here, this six-sided shape, facilitates the translation of photons to electrons. Photons to electrons. This is why it's important that we have tyrosine and tryptophan. Tyrosine and tryptophan are the primary amino acids that bring this aromatic ring into structure, right? And this aromatic ring winds up being the main ingredient in every different type of pigment across biology. Every type of pigment across biology is going to share this in common. How the proteins, how the amino acids are put together, they're not going to all be porphyrin rings. That's going to be different. Because that's different, how they interact with light is going to be different. What minerals these are combined with is going to be different. There's going to be a lot of differences. But the one thing that is true across pigments is these aromatic amino acids, because they bring in this aromatic ring with this geometry that allows them to interface with lights and electrons, right? Inside, you have the ability to create the perfect distribution of electrons, right? You have the ability to create the perfect distribution of electrons in these. So this is a place where geometry, again, no geometry, no life. No geometry, no life. Right? So this is crucial. Right? And we don't make aromatic amino acids. Right? To some extent, we can kind of turn phenylalanine into tyrosine, but for the most part, these are essential for us to consume. We have to eat those, right? And these guys become a large portion of our neurochemistry, right? A large portion of our neurochemistry. So, yes, there are people, right? There are people that cannot, they can't see with their mind, right? There are people that cannot see with their mind. There are people that cannot, well, we know people have different pigment levels, right? So people have different level to, absorb the sun and stuff like that. But what we take for granted a lot of times, at least me, right? I took these things for granted. So I'm going to assume, because many people who I spoke to about this, they did the same. Some people I spoke to, they were surprised because they were in the other group, right? They weren't like me, right? But I have everything. So I have a wealth. God gave me abundance. God didn't give everybody abundance. I have abundance. And what I mean by that is, if I close my eyes, I have the ability to think of something and to see it. Like, I can close my eyes and I can think of a red apple, or I can think of this room, or I could think of whatever, and I could see it in my mind. Like, I can imagine a thing and I can see it. I can close my eyes and I can see the sun, or I can see clouds, or I can see a car or a girl or whatever. I can imagine. I have a mind's eye. As a kid, I thought everybody had the ability to imagine stuff and see it. That is not the case. Everybody does not have the ability to see things in their mind, right? As a kid, I used to have crazy, crazy nightmares, like really super, super vivid dreams. And a part of how my mom's helped me to get over it is because she was like, everybody, boy, you want me to whoop you? Now knock it off and go back to sleep. Everybody have bad dreams like that. Okay? You don't think everybody got to go to sleep at night? So I thought everybody had the ability to dream in like a really vivid kind of, like almost like alive kind of way. Only to find out when I got older, no. Most people don't remember their dreams if they have dreams. And of the people that do have dreams, most of them do not have the ability to lucid dream. So I realized, man, I can imagine, I can visualize, I can lucid dream. When I see a part in the movie, a movie makes me sad if I'm watching a movie, or if I hear my favorite song, or not my favorite song, but a song that I can get goosebumps, right? I thought everybody could do that. You know what I'm saying? But everybody does not respond to music. Everybody does not respond to music. Everybody does not have the ability, like they hear a song or they hear a beat or a sound and it gives them chills. That is a very, very deep reaction. That is the ability to physically feel music, right? So not till I got older that I learned. So now when you put all that together, everybody can't see with their mind. Everybody can't dream. Everybody can't feel music. Everybody can't absorb the sun the same amount. Everybody doesn't know how to read that good. Everybody can't really count that good. When you put all that together, you have to have greater appreciation for whatever gifts you do have, right? But then you also have to have more patience for people out in the world, because there are a vast majority of people that are running around out here with a lot of those things going on. Yeah, and you can't tell. Now, my children put me on to a term that they use. And I said, yo, that's a real thing. Y'all playing with that, but it is a lot of people out here that's just NPCs. You know what I'm saying? I was like, you got NPCs out here. They can't feel music. They can't visualize. They can't dream. If you can't feel music, you can't dream, and you can't visualize with your mind, I don't even know what kind of world that is you live in. Like maybe one or two, okay, cool. But if you don't have the ability to do any of those things, like that is crazy. And there's no money in the world that can fix those things or that can buy them for you. Like there's no way to fix that. That's just you for life, period. You just, and for the most part, everybody looks the same on the outside. Everybody looks the same on the outside. So you can't really tell, you know what I'm saying? Like this person is a little, I don't know. It could be a little, not human, right? If you can't dream, if you can't visualize, if you can't feel music, I would say your ability to empathize, right? I mean, your ability to learn, your ability to socialize, right? So people ask me, how do I have patience, to teach people or to talk to people or, wrestle with certain groups? Because I know everybody's not the same. And back when I was first, I ain't gonna say first driving, but the very first time I drove with my dad in the car. I've been driving for years, but I hadn't drove with my dad in the car. So I was feeling myself. I got my pops in the car. And that was always a thing that we did when I was little. He would take me on drives, you know what I'm saying? Usually because we had to go get the other children, you know what I'm saying? Everybody lived far apart, an hour, 2 hours from each other. But so I was feeling myself, you know what I'm saying? And so somebody had did something stupid and I went to going crazy, cussing them out, road raging. And he jumped on my case, you know what I'm saying? And I was like, ain't this the pot calling the kettle black? I learned this from you. What are you talking about? Like, because my pops used to go crazy. Pull over on the highway. He'd be ready to pull out something on you. So I'm thinking, you know what I'm saying? Like, we might beat somebody up together, family activity. This is a much younger, less evolved version for me, obviously. Right. But yeah, he jumped on my case and he was like, nah, everybody wasn't how did he explain it? He said everybody wasn't created equal. Some people, he explained it somehow. But he was like, the bottom line was, he was like, just be happy that you are not the other person. Just be happy that you're not the other person. Just be glad that you have the good sense that you do have. And it didn't necessarily click in the moment, but over time, especially once I learned that people really are different, like not just on the outside, like on the inside, like people's ability to feel is different. People's ability to see is different. People's ability to dream, to visualize, like things that we definitely take for granted that you cannot purchase. They're free. They're definitely free, but you cannot purchase them. There's no repair for them. There's no medicine. There's no surgery. You got to go through your whole life without knowing what a dream is like. That's crazy. You got to go through your whole life without seeing anything in your mind. That means like the rest of your stuff is incomplete, because a part of being able to see with your eyes is being able to also recall those visions in your mind. So you don't have a complete sense of vision if you can't see in your mind, right? A part of being able to smell is being able to recall scenes, like memory. Your sense of smell is attached to your memory. So if you can't see with your mind, your memory, you don't have a full, like your whole, you're not really fully whole. Like you're not a whole, you know what I'm saying? In the If P Then Q book, we talk about how memories are formed, how your brain prunes information to make sure you have room for what's important, and all just a whole bunch of stuff. But a part of that is how dreams, how REM sleep specifically, and how just sleep in general, but also REM sleep, how your sleep helps to organize and refresh the brain and frees up memory, right? Stores what you need to remember and deletes, the stuff from your quote unquote desktop that you need to, get rid of the clutter for you so you can start a fresh day of gathering information, right? If you can't dream, like you know what I'm saying? Like there's just so much of life that even with $1 zillion, you can't get. You know what I'm saying? You just can't get. And I can't even imagine. I'm a music person. There's no possible way I could imagine going through life not being able to feel music. Not being able to feel music. Like I was born at them block parties. You know what I'm saying? My dad was a drug, so he was financing some of them neighborhood block parties where rap was created at. You know what I'm saying? So I was there as a little kid running around, bumping into the DJ booth, standing in front of the speakers. They like, yo, don't stand in front of them speakers. They're going to blow your ears out. I'm standing right in front of the speaker just so I could feel the bass. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know what that is to not be able to feel music. You know what I'm saying? And all of these different things are aspects of wave conversion, right? Because it's all traveling waves, right? Whether it's electromagnetic waves or mechanical waves, you're converting them somehow. That's why you have mechanoreceptors, pigments, neurons, all of these. You have a wide variety of cells that are just there to convert different types of waves into information. Then you have your nervous system for sending that information to the brain and the heart for storage, right? So, yeah, I don't know. I can't imagine. I can't imagine living in a world where I can't feel music. Like that's wild. So in my mind, I feel like I don't think they've done any studies on it, but I feel like if they tested serial killers, not like people that kill people, because technically anybody could kill somebody if they get passionate enough for one reason or another, or in defense by mistake, or whatever. Maybe they have an accident, they drunk, you know what I'm saying, or something. But like serial killers, like people that kill a bunch of people, you know what I'm saying? I would bet that they are not as human. I would bet that they are not as human. You know what I'm saying? And then when you take after you take into consideration the fact that some people don't have these faculties at all, they're not capable of visualizing, right? So you exclude them. When you look at the group of people that can have lucid dreams or visualize with their mind or feel music or whatever the case may be, most people don't train those senses. Like they don't practice visualization with their mind to sharpen it. They don't practice feeling music to sharpen it. They don't practice lucid dreaming to sharpen it. So even amongst the people that can do these things, is varying degrees, because some people get into, and this is again when we were talking about culture and ritual. Some people get into cultures where a part of that culture, visualization is a part of that culture, right? So maybe they have organized meditation where in that meditation they have to meditate on this or on that, right? I don't know about any cultures. Well, actually, there are cultures where dreams are part of the working framework of the culture. Yeah, so people have dream books, dream catchers. Um, they wake up and they write out whatever dream they had from the night before. Obviously, we have different people in the music space, whether it is people who play instruments, people who make beats, people who sing, rap, whatever, you know what I'm saying? People in the music space that train their ability to metabolize music, however they do it. There are people who have different wiring with their senses. So they may hear or see, certain things with color or sound that other people don't. I didn't know that most people dream. Their dream is like grayish. It's not like full color. Just all of these different things. You know what I'm saying? Stuff for you to think about. You know what I'm saying? Because you may be taking stuff for granted. You know, it might be stuff going on in your life that you're struggling with, and you may be overlooking, you know, abundance in another area. You know what I'm saying? It might be stuff you overlooking. And this is the time of year that you want to, you know, this is the time of year you're supposed to, you're supposed to do that all the time, every day, right? That's supposed to be a part of prayer. We do that 3-5 times a day, right? You're supposed to be in a meditative, contemplative state, right? While you give thanks. You give thanks, right? You just want to give thanks, right? But for the rest of the world, they're trained, right? They're trained on this time of year. And this time of year is named after Eve, right? So the holiday is not New Year's Day. The holiday is New Year's Eve, right? And Eve represents the original sin, which is the reason why everybody gets high and drunk and wild and crazy as possible on New Year's Eve. It was a holiday to shut it down, you know what I'm saying? To close the devil's months out. You know what I'm saying? You get those 2 months. Back to those 2 months again. Right? Back to those 2 months again. You get a 2-month window. That's the devil's window. Right? Starts with Halloween and ends with Eve, New Year's Eve. To go wild and crazy. You know, invoke the demons and blah, blah, blah. If you believe in that. If you don't believe in that, some of that may be working on your psyche unconsciously. You may not know. But you practicing rituals whether you know it or not, right? You practicing rituals whether you know it or not. You might as well figure out what you got going on. But anyway, let's see what the chat got going on. Yeah. That's that neurochemistry, absolutely. Paul said, I'm definitely alive out here in these streets. Yeah, like, yo, I learned acting a fool from you. What you talking about? I learned acting a fool from you. Yeah. Yeah, so we just got stuff that we got to be thankful. Stuff we're supposed to be thankful for. Oh, I'm in the wrong playlist. Yeah, I'm in the wrong playlist. No, I'm not. Here we go.
resonate, resonate. See what I'm saying? Levitate, resonate, resonate. Nah, I mean I'm trying to elevate. Resonate, resonate. Words can't describe or articulate. Resonate, resonate. Oh, feel me, celebrate. When they was partying and they was drinking, the gospel of music had me writing, thinking. Music is sounds, but it's also written words. Lego notes, fifths, halves, quarters, thirds. The periodic table of atoms. The language of the gods and wave patterns. The periodic table of atoms, E equals MC squared. The musical wave patterns, the facts are laid. Synapse engaged, perhaps a slave. Collapse away. The heart detonate, the tongue generate. The stone demonstrate, the mind meditate. Honestly, honor me for escaping poverty, turning limits to lemonade. Noise into harmony, awfully. God is the music of my artery, the heart of me. The beat is the best part of me. God is the way. God is the music. God is the music. Without it, I might lose it. God is the way. God is the music. Without God, I might lose it. I might lose it. Resonate. Resonate. See what I'm saying? Levitate. Resonate. Resonate. I mean, I'm trying to elevate. Resonate. Resonate. Words can't describe or articulate. Feel me, celebrate. My thoughts don't make sounds, but I can still hear them. Periodic table waves to the inky theorem. You never seen God, but you fear him. My thoughts don't make sounds, but I can still hear them. My thoughts don't make sounds, but I can still hear them. I don't know, understand the love words, but I feel them. My heart wild, my heart savage. That's why it's so easy to love bad habits. They block pain like perks. The music I can lie below 20 hertz. I can feel it in my bones. He's so electric, we so electric. He gon' respect it. When they was partying and they was drinking, the gospel of music had me writing, thinking. Music is sound, but it's also written words. Lego notes, fingers, halves, quarters, thirds. The periodic table of atoms. The language of the gods and wave patterns. The periodic table of atoms, E equals MC squared in musical wave patterns. God is the way. God is the music. God is the music. Without it, I might lose it. God is the way. God is the music. Without God, I might lose it. I might lose it. Resonate. Resonate. See what I'm saying? Levitate. Resonate. Resonate. I mean, I'm trying to elevate. Resonate. Resonate. Words can't describe or articulate. Feel me, celebrate. God is the way. God is the music. God is the music. Without it, I might lose it. God is the way. God is the music. Without God, I might lose it. I might lose it. Resonate. Resonate. See what I'm saying? Resonate. Resonate. I mean, I'm trying to elevate. Resonate. Words can't describe or articulate. Feel me, celebrate. Celebrate. We give thanks and praise to the Most High God for the divine spark that set our sails into perpetual motion. We give thanks for the magnetism of the most holy, the magnetism that repels and attracts the ferry boats of light 60,000 miles every 60 seconds throughout our vessels and caves. We give thanks for the ability to drink clean water every 60 minutes, flooding the river of life. We give thanks that sugar has not covered our berries and turned them into stone. We give thanks that darkness has not covered the riverbanks with calcium and turned them into stone. We give thanks that anger and fear have not turned our almonds bitter, turning our heart to stone. We give thanks for smooth sailing upstream through the valley of death, through the superior vena cava into the right atrium. We give thanks for smooth sailing around the heart through the corona crown, joining the vortex in the right atrium. We give thanks for the perfect black solar repeater that induces the primary electromagnetic wave, opening the mouth of the Kodesh HaKodashim. We give thanks for the magnetism of the most holy, don't lack jism, liver claims. You know the tracks, the ferry boats of light, 60,000 miles every 60 seconds, throughout our vessels and gangs.
In this motif, creation itself follows a universal law. Motion generates form, form constrains future motion, and that constraint is memory. The traveling wave is the creative impulse. The standing wave is stored word. Memory is the word impressed into the fabric of the medium. Thus, traveling waves do not store memory directly. They write memory into fields they pass through. And because no region of reality is devoid of field structure, not even the vacuum, memory is possible at every scale of existence. The world is not merely a product of creation, it is the record of creation. Every structure that exists is a standing imprint left behind by a prior act of motion. Stars are memory written into space-time curvature. Atoms are memory written into electromagnetic standing waves. Crystals are memory written into lattice symmetry. Life is memory written into self-repairing molecular architecture. Nothing simply appears. Everything persists as the residue of a past excitation that stabilized into form. Creation, in this view, is not a one-time event locked in the past. It is an ongoing process in which traveling energy continually rewrites new standing structure into the fabric of reality. That is Kepra. That is Kepra. Emerging from the Kemetic, then becoming Atum, and then becoming Re. That is Kepra emerging from the potential, stabilizing itself as Atum, and then traveling as Re. Right? That is Kepra. So just so that When you hear one, you know you hear in the other, right? That is the original Trinity, the oldest Trinity, I believe, or major Trinity anyway, right? You have Kepra, Atum, and Re. Kepra emerges, Atum stabilizes, and Re travels. Right? So Kepra is formation, Atum is stabilization, and then Re is what emerges from Atum, the traveling light. So these are three different aspects of the sun, right? Not in a purely fantastic, made-up story gobbledygook kind of sense, but in a very real stellar evolution and daily activity kind of thing, because the evolution also is a part of the day-to-day activity, or mirrors the day-to-day activity, right? So you have stars emerging, right? Stabilizing, and then emitting light or traveling waves. But the stabilized star in and of itself is a system of bound waves, right? So this is how you get this symbol for stabilized bound waves, and then you get this symbol of a standing wave for Re as a traveler, because Re doesn't manifest unless Re gets stabilized, right? That is how Re manifests. So that's why most of the stories, Re is merging with Osiris or merging with some other deity or some other form of energy, right? Because Re needs to stop for a second. Re needs to stand still, right? Papa was a rolling stone, right? But he got it from, right, constant movement, right? But you can't manifest. The word doesn't become flesh. Light doesn't become matter. Energy doesn't become mass without the standing wave. Yeah, see, y'all so used to 10 seconds go by. Y'all already hitting the ring the alarm. You got to sound the guardian. Whoa. Hey. Yeah, trolling. All right. So each act of motion leaves behind a permanent geometry that constrains everything that follows. The present is therefore never isolated from the past. It is literally shaped by the past. The universe is not just evolving forward in time, it is carrying the accumulated memory of every transformation that ever occurred. This means the creator is not separate from the world in the way a builder is separate from a building. The creator is present as the original ordering impulse that still echoes through every field, every resonance, every constant, every law. The traveling wave of creative power becomes frozen into the standing architecture of that matter, that space, that life. The creation is the creator's motion translated into structure. The world is the memory of that motion. In this sense, memory is not accidental. All right, now, if you're just tuning in, let me make sure we get everybody on the same page. If you're just tuning in, right now, we are in this book. So make sure you have this book. If you're just tuning in, this is the book we're in. Right? Make sure you go to Amazon and get 10 copies of this book. So you have one for yourself, and then you have a couple to give away as gifts for the holiday season. All right. In this sense, memory is not an accidental feature of consciousness. Consciousness is an advanced expression of a universal memory entity. The brain does not invent memory from nothing. It inherits a cosmic rule. Motion becomes form, and form remembers motion. Neural memory is simply localized space-time memory organized into biological circuitry. Thought itself is wave activity writing temporary structure into a living field that is already made of ancient memory. We are making history, changing what existence actually means. To exist is to stand as a stabilized trace of prior action. A mountain exists because of tectonic memory. A river exists because of gravitational and erosional memory. A heartbeat exists because of an embryological and electromagnetic memory. A mind exists because of generational, molecular, and cosmic memory layered into a living system. In this light, the statement, the world is the memory of the creation and the creator, is not poetry. It is a literal physical truth. Creation is the traveling wave. The world is the standing wave it left behind. Every moment of reality is simultaneously an act of present motion and a remembrance of the original motion that set everything into being. Light is everywhere at all times, but you can only interpret a small fraction of that. Reality exists because traveling waves collapse into standing waves, and standing waves release back into traveling waves. This is the oscillation that creates universes, atoms, lives, and minds. God is not outside this process. God is the traveling field itself. The word is not decoration. The word is the standing pattern God leaves behind as structure. Okay, now we get to some work over here. Paul, she's definitely flexing. Yeah. Paul, she's definitely flexing, bro. That's definitely a flex, a quiet flex. Like, yeah, I know what page we on, because, you know, I got my book. Just saying. I'm just saying. Reality exists because traveling waves collapse into standing waves, and standing waves release back into traveling waves. God as music is not a metaphor. It is the fundamental nature of reality as organized vibration. Every serious definition of God across cultures agrees on one core point. God is the source of motion, form, and order. Not a physical object inside the universe, but the reason anything moves at all. In physics, nothing moves without oscillation. No vibration means no energy, no force, no particles, no atoms, no life. Light itself is vibration. Heat is vibration. Electricity is oscillation. Solid matter is locked vibration at the quantum level. If God is the first cause and prime mover, then God cannot be static. God must be the original oscillation. That is already the root definition of music. Organized vibration through time. Light is the only thing I know of that even propagates in a vacuum. The universe itself behaves mathematically, not like a machine, but like a tuned instrument. Structure in physics emerges through frequency, harmonics, resonance, standing waves, interference, phase alignment, and nodes. These are not music terms borrowed by physics. They are wave laws that music simply makes audible. Atoms exist because electrons form standing wave orbitals. Molecules exist because those waves harmonize into stable phase relationships. Stars exist because gravitational fields collapse into resonant modes. The heart beats because pressure waves synchronize into rhythmic oscillations. The brain thinks because neurons entrain into electric field rhythms. Remove resonance and everything collapses into noise. Resonance is what makes existence coherent. If the universe is an instrument, whatever tuned it functions as the musician, the most talented. Across ancient traditions, creation begins with sound, vibration. Genesis says God spoke light into existence. Kemet describes Kepra emerging as vibration from the primordial field of noon. Hindu cosmology begins with Om, the sound of creation. Greek philosophy names logos as the word that orders reality. These are not poetic accidents. Speech is structure, pressure, oscillation. Light is structured, electromagnetic oscillation. Modern physics confirms that mechanical vibration can be transformed into electromagnetic radiation and back again. Sound, electricity, and light are different frequency bands of the same wave reality. When ancient texts describe creation as sound, breath, or word, they are translating field excitation into human acoustic language.
Share the video, hit the like, subscribe, Cash App, Super Chat, AmericanHealer.website, Amazon. Share the video, hit the like, subscribe, Cash App, Super Chat, AmericanHealer.website, Amazon. Share the video, hit the like, subscribe, Cash App, Super Chat, AmericanHealer.website, Amazon.
Music uniquely penetrates every level of the human system at once. It acts mechanically through the fascia and bone vibration, electrically through brainwave entrainment, chemically through hormone release, emotionally through the limbic synchronization, and metabolically through the heart rate and breath rhythm. There is no drug known to man that operates across all these layers simultaneously. but music does. Because the body itself is a standing wave instrument. We're going to rewind that. Here, bring it back, come rewind. Music uniquely penetrates every level of the human system at once. It acts mechanically through fascia and bone vibration, electrically through brainwave entrainment, chemically through hormone release, emotionally through limbic synchronization, and metabolically through heart rate and breath rhythm. There is no drug known to man that operates across all these layers simultaneously, but music does. Because the body itself is a standing wave instrument. Music reorganizes internal fields without binding to receptors. It restores coherence by resonance alone. If God is the force that enters the body without touching matter, reorganizes internal order, synchronizes population, collapses chaos into harmony, and restores coherence through invisible means, then music is not merely inspired by God. Music is the operational interface of God with biological systems. Yep. We're going to do that one more time for the people all the way in the back. All the way in the back. For the people driving, they on the highway, they trucking. For somebody trying to get their children, well, it should be no school right now. But who knows what people got going on? They full attention span might not be on. Music uniquely penetrates every level of the human system at once. It acts mechanically through the fascia and bone vibration, electrically through brainwave entrainment, chemically through hormone release, emotionally through limbic synchronization, metabolically through the heart rate and breath rhythm. There is no drug that operates across all these layers simultaneously, but music does. Because the body itself is a standing wave instrument. Music reorganizes internal fields without binding to receptors. It restores coherence by resonance alone. If God is the force that enters the body without touching matter, reorganizes internal order, synchronizes populations, collapses chaos into harmony, and restores coherence through invisible means, then music is not merely inspired by God. Music is the operational interface of God with biological systems. Now, what's crazy about that is theology tells us that. Kemetic theology, biblical theology, it literally tells us that. Like, literally tells us that. That is how you communicate with God or the gods, right? The Elohim or the Necharu. At the deepest level, modern physics already agrees with this. Quantum field theory describes particles as excitations of fields. Fields are oscillatory. Forces are phase relationships. Mass is standing wave energy through energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. E equals mc squared. Information is carried by frequency. Existence is not built from things, but built from relationships between vibrations. Music is the name humans gave to relationships between vibrations. Scientifically, the statement God is music becomes equivalent to the statement that the fundamental substrate of reality is lawful, organized oscillation from which structure emerges. The theological consequence of this ancient model, understanding God as music, makes creation a composition. Makes creation a composition. The laws of nature are harmony rules. Sin is dissonance. Healing is retuning. Prayer is phase alignment. Prophecy is resonance with or prediction of future states. Resurrection is restoration, like the T wave, right? In our QRST complex, right? Judgment may be harmonic incompatibility, right? Or diagnosing harmonic incompatibility. This explains why music appears in every religion, why it precedes language in human development, why it synchronizes crowds instantly, why it alters pain and time perception, why it remains when language and memory fail. Music endures because it is not cultural at its root. It is the same physics that holds atoms together, expressed audibly. The argument does not drift into simple theology or chakras. God is not a being inside the universe, but the organizing oscillatory field from which all structure, motion, and coherence emerge. Music is the human audible projection of that same organizing energy. Music is therefore not symbolic of God. It is a scaled expression of God's fundamental operating mode, evidenced by wave mechanics, neurophysiology, field theory, resonance, biology, rather than poetry or superstition. The universe exists because it is fine-tuned. Life exists because it remains in tune. Consciousness exists because it rides these standing and traveling wave relationships. To say God is music is to say that reality itself is wavy at every scale, from photons to heartbeats to galaxies, right? From photons to heartbeats to galaxies.
Hello, Dr. Enki.
I don't know if you know the score for sure. It's a mental holy war. Only the pure can abstain from obscure. Anali Kro. Melanin versus diabetes, we in here. Black's Anatomy, Black's Academy. Black's Anatomy, Black's Academy.
Stone Age sermons, they scratching the scrolls, teaching the gods don't exist. Truth unfolds. I'm about to give them a long kiss. More Lay him down, make him witness the cha-cha. Game jumping wild, pogo sticks in the fog. They can't pull a source for the wave of the ground. Knock me down, I stand back up. Bounce like I'm rubber, pressure won't disrupt. Black's anatomy, Black's academy. Black's anatomy, Black's academy. Fitted flat brim, God lay, I'm him. Retiring these old nutches the hard way, grim. Spit sharper than violin strings on the wind. Cut through the noise, my essence again to kin. They stone walls, I'm lava cracks. Melting their facts with this fire axe. Pull the strings, watch the wave function bend. Human beatbox, heartbeat, never pretend. Black's Academy, scratch on the map. Book, 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 the cadence don't collapse.
Play 0 games with these lames. It's up and it's stuck up.
Teaching them the real crime. Teaching them the real crime. Killing them by giving life. Perhaps a slave, collapse away. Synapse engaged to map the maze. Ask him to pull a source for the wave function. I'm him. I wrote that, quote that, note that. Cornerstone, they rejected, grow back. Black turned ink, then ink hotel. Took an oath to a Christ named Joseph. Flow, slept, bro, blessed. Knowledge they ain't know, yeah. This a mental holy war. I didn't know the score. I got his music, this the encore. Strings cry, violence sing. A vibrant thing, a vibrant thing. A vibrant bring God with a thing hot. That boy got plucked in the head with a slingshot ink. We know the debate 3-0. The debate was 3-0. Yeah, the debate was 3-0. If Christ is the way, think about this. The waveform exists, the standing wave exists. Christ exists, Osiris exists, right exists. Atheists ain't Stone Age legends teaching the gods don't exist. I'm about to give them a long kiss. Lay them down, I got the game jumping. Ask them to pull a source for the wave function. They knock me down and I stand back up. They knock me down and I stand back up. I'm him, fitted, flat brim, guy, let retiring these old netches the hard way. In the beginning of Ponce planet, a manifest garden, quantum mechanics, science, life is dope for microscope. Sight in the night so dope, I might bite your throat. One of them yo Rayers type players, just winning Bronx, Yankees, Oakland Raiders, quoting haters. Then kill them and turn them into smoking favors, enrolling papers, enrolling classes. We holding classes, we turning stolen classes. And get a sensei, what you can't say. Got off the raw music by MJ, mouth for creation, words so wavy, shorting an equation, flow so crazy. Wave function, unification is an option. Stronger together, that's how we rockin'. Da da da, diamonds are forever. Diamonds are forever, diamonds are forever, diamonds are forever. Atoms are wave, crystallizations, mitochondria official libations. No little green man, just dark green skin. Craziest thing you've never seen. Black people are really green. Revelations, plants heal nations. Get it out the mud, reverses, tribulation. 7.365 is the station. Allegation, precipitation. We make it rain, baby. This just patient. We creators, you be haters. Cheap traders, debaters, piles moving food equators. We waiters, see papers, makers, players of the planet Earth. Father of civilization, God of the universe. Black's anatomy, Black's academy. Black's anatomy, Black's academy. Black's anatomy, Black's academy. Knock me down, I stand back up. Bounce like I'm rubber, pressure won't disrupt. Black's anatomy, Black's academy. Black's anatomy, Black's academy.
Reality itself is wavy at every scale. Okay, hold on. To say God is music is to say that reality itself is wavy at every scale. From photons to heartbeats to galaxies, when ancient civilizations spoke of God, Logos, Ra, the creative word, they were not primarily describing a personality in the modern sense. They were describing self-organizing light as a living physical entity. To the ancient mind, intelligence was not something locked inside a skull. Intelligence was the observable property of reality, arranging itself into coherent form without external mechanical control. We need to double down on it. In fact, if you have this book, you should be highlighting this part right here. You should be highlighting a few parts, but definitely highlighting this part. If you don't have this, you should be taking notes, writing this down. Or you should be actually on Amazon ordering your book. yeah. If you have this, you should be highlighting this. If you don't have this book, you should be on Amazon ordering your book. Right? But they were describing self-organizing light as a physical entity. To the ancient mind, intelligence was not something locked inside a skull. Intelligence was the observable property of reality arranging itself, self-organization, into coherent form without external mechanical control. Rivers organize themselves into deltas. Crystals organize themselves into lattices. Embryos organize themselves into fully patterned organisms. Planets organize themselves into harmonic orbits. To the ancient observer, self-organization was the proof of consciousness embedded in nature itself. Modern science now uses the term self-organization to describe exactly what ancient theology called divine intelligence. A self-organizing system is one that spontaneously generates structure, rhythm, hierarchy, and function from internal dynamics alone, without an external engineer. This is precisely how galaxies form, how weather systems stabilize, how cells assemble their internal machinery, how neural networks wire themselves, how ecosystems regulate themselves. The only thing modern language removed was the word God. The behavior never disappeared. Ancient consciousness interpreted self-organization as living intelligence because the output of the process, order, ma'at, adaptation, memory, reproduction, looks identical to what we now label intelligence in biological organisms. Music is the sensory expression of self-organization in time. A random vibration is noise. A structured vibration is music. The difference is not material, it is organization. When frequencies phase lock into harmonic ratios, when rhythms synchronize across multiple oscillators, when standing waves stabilize inside a resonant cavity, music emerges automatically. No composer is required at the physical level. Organization alone generates harmony. This is exactly how atoms form, how molecules bond, how cells synchronize, and how organs coordinate. The universe does not behave like a chaotic explosion. It behaves like a self-tuning instrument beyond hearing. Ancient consciousness, therefore, did not separate music from intelligence or intelligence from God. They were the same phenomena viewed at different scales. God was not imagined as a detached designer pushing parts into place. God was understood as the intelligence of self-organization itself, the invisible entity that causes vibration to become pattern, pattern to become form and form to become life. When ancient texts say God spoke, they are describing structured oscillation giving rise to organized reality. Speech is organized pressure. Speech is organized pressure waves. Creation is organized field waves. The language fits because the physics fit. Our modern view fractured this unity. Today, we treat intelligence as something that appears only when neurons reach sufficient complexity. We treat music as entertainment. We treat physics as mindless mechanisms. We treat consciousness as a late accident. Ancient consciousness treated intelligence as a first-order property of reality, not an emergent novelty. To them, humans did not invent intelligence. Humans were instances of a universal intelligence already present in nature's organizing behavior. That is why the same cultures that built temples also built calendars, medicine, hydraulics, astronomy, harmonic instruments. To them, measurement, music, biology, and cosmology were all expressions of the same organizing mind. Once self-organization is placed at the center, the statement, God is music, becomes scientifically sharpened. God is not sound. God is the entity by which vibration organized into meaningful structure. Music is simply the audible domain where humans can directly experience that organizing intelligence in real time. When a rhythm synchronizes a crowd, when a harmony alters emotion, when a melody reshapes thought, this is not metaphor. It is direct resonance with the same self-organizing field that builds atoms, cells, and stars. The human brain itself proves this continuity. Neural networks self-organize through oscillatory synchronization. Conscious thought is not a static computation. It is a coordinated, standing, traveling wave pattern across billions of neurons. Memory forms by phase stabilization. Attention modulates amplitude. Emotion shifts frequency. Learning is retuning. From the ancient perspective, this made consciousness not an exception to nature, but a local concentration of the same organizing intelligence that operates everywhere else. This also explains why ancient systems saw no hard boundary between matter, life, mind, and divinity. All four were viewed as different density states of one organizing wave reality. At low density, it appears as field. At high density, it appears as matter. At structured density, it appears as life. At reflective density, it appears as consciousness. At universal scales, God. Modern language replaced this continuity with separate disciplines, but the underlying structure never stopped being one. God is the self-organizing intelligence of vibration itself. Music is the audible expression of that intelligence. Matter is the condensed form of that intelligence. Life is the metabolic circulation of that intelligence. Consciousness is the self-recognition of that intelligence. Ancient consciousness did not believe this philosophically. They observed it operationally in nature's behavior. They encoded it in symbolic language because mathematics had not yet been invented as a universal expression tool. Modern physics later rediscovered the same intelligence under the names of field theory, resonance, self-organization, nonlinear dynamics, emergent complexity. So the combined thesis is not that God equals music alone, nor that God equals intelligence alone, but that God is music. God equals self-organizing universal light. Music is its sound. Physics is its measurement. Life is its circulation. Mind is its reflection. That is the ancient worldview translated into modern scientific grammar without capping. Wall inscriptions showing instrument tuning are one of the strongest material proofs that ancient Kemet treated music as a precise physical science rather than a decorative art. Across tombs and temples spanning more than 2,000 years, reliefs consistently depict harps with fixed string counts. Evenly spaced string intervals and carefully proportioned frames. These are not random artistic choices. In string instruments, pitch is determined by vibrating length, tension, mass per unit length. When reliefs show strings arranged in clearly graduated spacing, they are visually encoding the same physical principles used in modern acoustic engineering. The division of a vibrating medium into mathematically related segments to produce specific tones. Wind instruments carved into the walls preserve the same precision. Pipes are shown with carefully differentiated lengths, and double flutes appear with tubes of unequal but proportional size. In air column resonance, pitch is controlled directly by the tube length and diameter. A shorter tube produces a higher frequency. A longer tube produces a lower frequency. The fact that Kemet reliefs repeatedly show paired pipes with precise proportional differences means the artists were recording real acoustic design, not symbolic imagery. These depictions represent a working understanding of how pressure waves form inside bounded air columns, the very same physics that governs organ pipes and modern wind instruments. Let me see something. Let me down. All right, let's see what we. Oh, I'm bugging. I'm definitely trolling. That's not what I meant to do. We can grab this. Throw this right on over here. I'm trying to see if we can find some. Trying to see if we can find us a few little pieces. So we can see what they was talking about. Some people may have seen images like this before, right? Some people may have seen these, right? Right? This is the harp from Kemet, right? Yeah, some people may have seen these instruments. The sistrum is popular. Cymbals, clarinets, flutes, trumpets, tambourines, of course, of course, the drum, right? Okay, of course, we got the old head. Of course, we got the old head with a bag full of penis pills at 9 o'clock in the morning. That's what we needed to see. That's what we needed to see. Okay. Yeah. I believe it will probably take me a little bit of time, but the origin of the piano comes out of Kemet as well. This might be it though, right here. This instrument right here. This might be it. The origin of the piano. And I know y'all might think I'm trolling. Y'all might think I'm trolling. But I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they can. Make it easier. All right, let me see. Let's see what AI say. The piano did not exist in ancient Egypt. While there was no pianos, scholars often trace the evolutionary line of string keyboard instruments back to the simple string instruments. Yeah, see, this is what I'm talking about. Egypt used the harp, lyre, and the lute. The piano eventually evolved from the development of string instruments, though the monochord, clavichord, and harpsichord. Through the monochord, clavichord, and harpsichord, right? So a lot of times we forget that a piano is a string instrument, right? Because the piano actually combines all of the instruments. That's why the piano is so ill. The piano is like the string instrument with the wind with like percussion, but the basis of a piano is a string instrument. Man. Man.
You need that D, yeah. D, D, D with that blue magic. You need that D, D with that blue magic. You need that D, D with that blue magic. Theology in a bottle. Calcium electric, I'm magnetic. Your kidney electric, your liver magnetic. I'm talking kinetic. That deep put God in the flesh. That deep put God in the flesh. Say it, say it. Electrons in your bones, stay high on that blue magic brain glow. Set dopamine flow. Genes mode activate. Oral lit. Fall. All spirit low. Chakra. Inky the doctor. Ancient physics streaming on the product. The ketamine and ancient chemistry. Biblical fact. Bring it back. From the scroll to the lab. From the text to the trap. Yeah. Cash up, super chats on Carter, jeans, school. Yeah. Run it up. Cash up, super chats on Carter, jeans, school. Hey, tap in, let's go. Cash up, super chats on Carter, jeans, school. Send that love, that love. Cash up, super chats on Carter, jeans, school. Hit the like button, send those viral. Typing in the chat, that's tribal. Support the latest cycle. Run it back, flip that title. Subscribe, join the Patreon, level up tiers. Hit the website, we been grinding for a year. Get a book, stack brain, and the bank gets bigger. Copy the URL, make the shares go quicker. Posting on your socials, tag that name. One little share, whole feed in flame. Catch them on the screen, up in that frame. Super chat lit, that's jet fuel flame. Cash out, super chats on the crowd, just go. Send that love. Cash up, super chats on Friday, let's go. Just go, let's go. Just go. Come to my YouTube page, don't lag. Bell on locked in, that's swag. Chat going crazy, whole squad in the back. We teaching, we joking, we talk real fast. Linking them ball, you know that code. One click, whole tribe in go mode. From the couch to the glow, that how we roll. Turn views in the fam, that's get screw go, yeah. Cash up, super chats on Friday, just go. Send that love, that love. Cash up, super chats on Friday, just go. Just go.
Share the video, hit the like, subscribe, Cash App, Super Chat, AmericanHealer.website, Amazon. Go to AmericanHealer.website now. Get the tools for health and inspiration the way God intended.
All right. Wind instruments Oh no, we was on. Drums, often dismissed as primitive, are depicted with sophisticated tension control systems. Many reliefs show laced drum heads with multiple tighten points around them. This is not ornamental. Drum pitch, timbre depend directly on membrane tension. By tightening or loosening specific laces, the vibrating surface can be tuned to particular frequencies. The presence of these tension systems in stone reliefs indicates that Kemetic scientists understood membrane acoustics and frequency control at an operational level. The consistency of these depictions across different dynasties and locations proves we are looking at a standardized technical tradition, not an isolated artistic flair. The same types of harps, flutes, and drums appear at multiple sites separated by centuries. This continuity means instrument design followed stable acoustic rules passed down through institutional training rather than spontaneous invention. Art here is functioning as technical documentation preserved in stone. The most important sites preserving this acoustic knowledge include the tomb of Nak or Naket and the tomb of Rekhmir in Thebes. These great temples, the great temples of Dendera and Luxor, and numerous old kingdom mastabas. In Naket's tomb or Nak's tomb, harpists are shown playing instruments with clearly graduated string lengths. Rekhmir's tomb contains detailed precision scenes of musicians with double pipes, frame drums. Dendera and Luxor preserve ritual music scenes tied directly to temple liturgy, meaning these instruments were not just for entertainment, but for regulated sacred performance. Old Kingdom mastabas provide the earliest evidence. Old Kingdom mastabas provide the earliest evidence that this technical control of sound existed from the very foundations of Kemetic civilization. Taken together, these images demonstrate a working knowledge of the core laws of acoustics long before formal mathematical theories of sound ever appear in Greece. They reveal practical mastery of string harmonics, where pitch depends on fractional divisions of length. They show control of air column resonance, where standing pressure waves form at precise boundary conditions. They demonstrate tension frequency relationships in membranes where mechanical stress directly determines vibrational rate. These are not symbolic truths. These are experimentally verifiable physical laws being applied through the craft. In modern terms, what these wall inscriptions preserve is a fossil record of experimental acoustics. The Kemetic scientists did not describe the wave equation with symbols. They shaped wood, gut, reed, and skin according to the same wave behavior that physicists formalize today. Their data is stored in instrument geometry rather than in algebra. Stone reliefs function as both cultural record and engineering blueprint. The physics of vibration was being practiced, refined, and standardized inside Kemetic ritual at a level that fully qualifies as technical science. Light is everywhere at all times, but you can only interpret a small fraction of that. Reality exists because traveling waves collapse into standing waves, and standing waves release back into traveling waves. This is the oscillation that creates universes, atoms, lives, and minds. God is not outside this process. God is the traveling field itself. The word is not decoration. The word is the standing pattern God leaves behind in structure.
Rolling through the sand like a thought in disguise. The scarab spins truth where the cosmos collide. Energy whispers, it never says goodbye. The Beatles crawl, the Beatles rise.
Go to AmericanHealer.website now. Get the tools for health and inspiration the way God intended.
Sort of burst the chaos, yet the chaos rise. My name Beatles, 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 over and over, spinning the world in the grip of their shoulders. Beatles, 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 under and over, rolling through time till the blackness is sober. The heat fades lower, the order begins. The stillness so perfect, it hums from within. The void sings softly, entropy takes a bow. In the shadow of silence, the scarab knows how. The second law is dancing, feeding life through decay. The third law holds the promise that the stillness will stay.
Go to AmericanHealer.website now. Get the tools for health and inspiration the way God intended.